Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Political Ray. Hope everybody's having a fantastic Friday morning. It is the weekend. It's Friday. Hope everybody's got some good plans, hanging out with the fam, whatnot, maybe a little barbecuing. Should be good. Should be a good time. But anyway, today we've got kind of just a grab bag of stuff. Um, there was some things happening. We'll get into it, but mainly the big story over the week, or well, from yesterday rather. I'm thinking it's Monday already, but it's Friday. Anyway, we are live here Monday through Friday, 7:30 Eastern, just ahead of the Rumble lineup. So, appreciate you being here. Check it out, subscribe, follow. Also on X at The Political Ray and True Social at Political Ray. Appreciate you being here again. But NPR, CBS has been defunded by an executive order by President Trump. We're going to get into that. That's kind of the big story that happened yesterday. Trump also visited Alabama, University of Alabama, and gave a commencement speech for the graduation class there. That was pretty cool. Kind of compare that with President Biden when he gave his last commencement speech. I think everybody remembers that. But we've got some Democrats making idiots out of themselves, namely Jasmine Crockett and Chuck Schumer, old Chucky. So we'll get into that as well just a little bit. Tom Homan maybe hints towards the leaders of these sanctuary cities maybe being arrested. So we'll get into that a little bit. And then we've got Sri Thanadar, however you say his name, that congressperson who was trying to push up articles of impeachment, 7 different articles of impeachment against President Trump, who had 4 co-sponsors on that bill, or impeachment rather, who just kind of fell off. Apparently, there's some rumors going around about that. We'll get into that. And let's see. I think that's what we got for today. So we'll just go ahead and jump right into this. Let me go ahead and shrink myself down here, and we'll get into this. Now, like I said, the big story from yesterday is NPR and PBS. Now, question for everybody out there: should taxpayer dollars, should that be going to fund news organizations, TV shows, what have you? I think PBS is, I think they lie. They say that they're funded by viewers like you, which I think is incorrect because they get federal funding. Same thing with NPR. It's a left-wing propaganda news outlet. It's part of the mainstream media. Should they be getting federal funding? Should they be getting taxpayer dollars? I don't think they should. I think if they want to be an organization, they should be able to handle everything by themselves. They shouldn't be getting federal dollars. You can let me know what you think. I don't think it should be a thing, but President Trump has signed an executive order that has taken federal funding away from PBS and NPR. I think it's a good thing. You can let me know what you think, but these organizations, they shouldn't be getting taxpayer dollars. If they want to exist, they can do it on their own. If they can't, then they'll fail. I don't care. Same thing with every single other news media outlet out there. If they cannot survive on their own, then they shouldn't exist. That's just business. But I digress. So, NPR, CBS, or not CBS, NPR and PBS, they have been defunded from. Oh, wait, I got the wrong thing here. My bad. So, this is from The Guardian. So, this is them being defunded through executive order. It needs to be signed into law. But Trump signed an executive order to cut funding from public broadcasters. And rightfully so. Again, Donald Trump has signed an executive order seeking to cut public funding from the news outlets NPR and PBS, accusing them of being biased. They are. Look, it was I don't know the exact numbers, so don't quote me on it. I'm just going to paraphrase it. But look, during his first administration, his second run in towards the presidency, it was like 80 something percent of negative coverage by media, my mainstream media, 80 something percent of negative coverage against President Trump. Whereas you take the opposite, I think it was like 60 something percent of positivity as far as coverage for Kamala Harris. It's obviously biased. Anyway, NPR and PBS are only partly funded by U.S. taxpayers and rely heavily on private donations. I'd like to see the numbers for that. Maybe we can look into that in just a second. The U.S. president has long had an antagonistic relationship with most mainstream news media, previously describing them as the enemy of the people. A notable exception is the powerful conservative broadcaster Fox News, some of whose hosts have taken on leading roles in his administration. Now, I think, look, for the most part, I can say that Fox is pretty biased towards the right. But they do a lot of stuff. They cover a lot of stories. There was a transgender story that they covered not too long ago, favoring the left. They're not completely biased towards the right, like CBS, MSNBC, what have you, PBS, NPR, who only cover and tout the left and just every single negative news story they can get their hands on against President Trump. It's just how it is. Anyway, National Public Radio, the public broadcasting service, received taxpayer funds through a corporation for public broadcasting. Trump said in his executive order, I therefore instruct the CPB board of directors and all executive departments and agencies to cease federal funding for NPR and PBS. Good. Again, they shouldn't be getting taxpayer dollars. That's my money. That's your money. I don't want them getting that. They should not be funded by this. They shouldn't get a single dime of federal funding. If they can't make it on their own, they don't have the right to exist. That's just my opinion. I don't think they should get it. I'm happy with this. He added that neither entity presents a fair, accurate, or unbiased portrayal of current events to taxpayer citizens. It's true. Completely 100% true. The CPB budget has already been approved by Congress through 2027, which raises questions about the scope of Trump's order. Again, just get it through Congress. It comes back to getting things done now, before the midterms, get all that negative press out of the way. I mean, there's still going to be negative press because mainstream media, that's what they do. But get all this stuff out before midterms happen so that we can actually maintain control within the House and the Senate. Midterms are coming up. It's going to be important to maintain control. Anyway, the media right group RSF warned on Friday about an alarming deterioration in press freedom in the U.S. under Trump and unprecedented difficulties for independent journalists around the world. Look, independent journalists, people like Tim Pool, people like Crowder, they're the independent journalists. They're making strides. The mainstream media is falling off. The majority, especially the young people, they don't watch mainstream media anymore. They'll get on YouTube and Rumble, and they'll watch these independent news sources. The mainstream media is dying. It's just a fact. I don't know when. It could happen soon. It could happen a lot later. They're gonna try and stay around and stay relevant as long as they can. Now, I think that they're buying space into YouTube, and that's why I tell everybody to come over to Rumble. Rumble's the place to be. They've got the #1 time slots from 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning, Eastern times, 8 o'clock in the morning all the way to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They've got the #1 shows in those time spots for live news coverage. Again, the mainstream media is dying. These independent news sources are the ones that are up and coming and are going to be the future of news. Like it or hate it, that's just the way it's going to be. Anyway, let's see. blah, blah, blah. I think that's all they got for that. Okay. So you let me know what you think. I think that the mainstream media deserves to die. NPR and CBS or PBS, they shouldn't be getting federal dollars. They shouldn't. If they can't survive on their own, that's it. That's it. That's all there is to it. But anyway, that was kind of the big story that happening yesterday. But it was after, I think it was after Trump went and talked to the Alabama students. But maybe that was the day before. I can't remember. But we'll go ahead and move on now. Jasmine Crockett. We'll just move into Democrats making fools out of themselves. Namely Jasmine Crockett, Chucky Schumer. Now, this is funny to me, simply because of the fact that they cannot help themselves trying to, what's the word I'm looking for? Try to just paint President Trump in a bad light. They cannot help themselves. So this is Jasmine Crockett. She went on a program. I forget what one, but you'll see when it comes up. Now, she was claiming that coming into this country without documentation, without doing it the legal way, is not illegal. But she says in her statement, she contradicts herself in her statement when she says illegally. You tell me this is funny to me. Just take a look.
It is not a criminal violation to enter the country illegally.
It's not a criminal violation to enter the country illegally. She just contradicted herself. She's making herself look stupid. Okay, but she can't help herself. She's got to maybe she's going to run for president. I've said it before. There's going to be a lot of these Democrats coming out of the woodworks because they don't have a strong front runner. They don't have a leader for the party. There's going to be a lot of Democrats throwing their name into the hat for the presidency for the next run. Maybe she's one of them. AOC. I doubt Chucky Schumer is. I think AOC actually takes his place, but that's just my thought. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but look, she's an idiot. Her and old Chucky. They make themselves look stupid every time they open their mouths. But we'll keep going.
It's not a criminal. It's a crime. It's not a crime, which is why they're so frustrated, because they really want our local law enforcement to go out and round up people when they could be looking out for the murderers and the sexual abusers as well as the robbers. They want them to go and round people up on civil accusations.
Look, this is not it's not hard to understand this. Coming into this country illegally is a crime. That's all there is to it. And then her talking about local law enforcement, they should be worried about, people committing further crimes. That's what they're doing. The people that are getting caught right now are people with criminal histories after they've already broken the law coming into the country illegally. So, she's an idiot. She contradicts herself. And then old Chucky Schumer, he kind of does the same thing. He has a little press conference right here. And he's talking about President Trump. There's some polls coming out. They're saying he's got the worst approval rating within the first 100 days of any presidency for the last 80 years. What he says. Like right after this, like about 2 minutes later in this little presser, he gets asked by a reporter about his approval rating, which is at 17%. And then he proceeds to say that polls come and go, and that so why bring up the fact that President Trump has a low approval rating? Why bring it up if polls just come and go? He makes himself look stupid, but that's kind of what the Democrats do, because they cannot help themselves. They will go against everything that President Trump does. He cannot have a win. They can't paint him in any kind of positive light. It just can't happen for these Democrats. But anyway, take a look at this. Let me know. You tell me. I think he makes himself look stupid, just like a lot of these Democrats do. But you take a look.
Americans are noticing. The polls this week show Trump has the lowest 100-day approval rating since they started polling 80 years ago, the lowest. Even worse, 72% of Americans think it's likely that Trump's handling of the economy will walk us directly into a recession.
Look, I will tell you right now, I don't believe polls, mainly because there was a lot of them saying that President Trump wasn't going to take any of the swing states this last election. I said that he was. I said he was going to take every single one, and he did. And I'm not a pollster. I'm just an idiot that complains into the camera on weekdays before I go to work. But even I saw that, I don't trust the polls. Just like I can say that old Chucky Schumer, his approval rating's at 17%. It's probably higher than that. Probably not much more. People are not happy with this guy ever since that he buckled on the budget when he got called into the Oval Office, and then he caved on that and said that he was going to vote to approve it. He's just lost all backing that he's ever had. So that's the main reason why I think that AOC is probably going to take this guy's seat, because she's very popular. She's very she's good with her talking points, her speeches, what have you. She's got charisma. People like her. I'm not a fan. I think she's stupid too, but hey, people like her. So I think she's going to take his seat hands down. If she runs against this guy, she's got it in the bag. I don't see her running for president. I see her taking this guy's seat. I could be wrong. Maybe she does. But we'll see. Anyway, now there's 2 minutes after he says this about President Trump's approval rating being in the gutter, so he says. 2 minutes later, he gets asked by a reporter about his approval rating, and then take a look.
People who hate what Trump is proposing. Yes.
There's a poll out today that has your approval rating lower than any other congressional leader, 17%. Are you concerned that you may be a liability for your party?
Polls come and go. Our party is united. We're on our front foot. We're stepping forward and going after Trump and having real success.
Polls come and go. He literally was just boasting about the fact that President Trump's approval rating is in the gutter. But then when he's asked about his approval rating, it's a different story. Polls come and go. We're united as a party. We're going after Trump and we're having success. I don't think they are, but I think Trump is moving too fast for them to do anything about it. But just my opinion. I think this guy made himself look like an idiot because like I said, he talking about Trump's number, and then once his numbers come up, it doesn't matter. Polls don't matter. It only does when President Trump's involved, not when one of the Democrats is. He made himself look stupid. But anyway, question for everybody out there. Who thinks that people within power, people in charge of these cities that are sanctuary cities, who thinks that these people should be arrested if they impede on ICE and deportations and what have you? Who thinks that this should be a thing? I'm one of them. Look, if you're harboring an illegal alien, especially somebody who is a known criminal breaking the law after they came into the country illegally, who thinks that these people should be arrested? They are intentionally harboring criminals, gang members, rapists, murderers, what have you. These are not good people. But the Democrats cannot help themselves because they can't go along with anything that Trump does. They just cannot do it. I think they should be arrested if they are breaking the law, just like the judges that are getting arrested. We all remember Judge Dugan. I covered that. I think that she should have been arrested. She broke the law. And the Democrats' talking point about nobody is above the law, unless you're on the Democratic side of things, then it's okay. It's not. Left, right, center, nobody is above the law. Everybody should be held accountable for what they do. These people are breaking the law. They're harboring fugitives. You can say what you want. They're looking for a better life. They're here seeking asylum. Well, then do it legally. I have no problem with immigration as long as it's done legally. That's it. Don't come at me with the whole, well, the United States was settled by immigrants. No, it wasn't. It was founded by settlers, and there's a huge difference. I'm not going to get into it. I already covered it. But anyway, huge difference. But Tom Homan was asked by a reporter about the sanctuary cities and the leaderships within those cities, asking if there was going to be arrests taking place. He didn't come out and say it, but he kind of did. You let me know what you think. I think that there's gonna start being arrests, and I'm here for it. If they're breaking the law, I don't care if they're a governor. I've been preaching this for months. Accountability. Actions have consequences. If you break the law, you face the consequences. These people are adults. People the judge that was harboring a TDA gang member, those people were what, in their 60s? They know better. They're judges. The Judge Dugan, who escorted that guy out the back door. She's a judge. She knows better. She knows that what her actions, she knows the consequences of what she's doing. So why do it? Because she thinks she's above the law. She's a Democrat. She's on the right side, the left side rather. I mean, right side being, she thinks she picked the right side, so she can do these things that are illegal and get away with it because she sides with the Democrats. That's why they do it, because it's the first time that these people are actually having to have accountability for their actions, and they're flipping out about it. They're saying, oh, this is fascism, this is tyranny, and blah, blah. No, it's not. These people are breaking the law, and if they're breaking the law, they should be arrested. That's it. Anyway, Tom Homan, he kind of hints towards that, things are going to start happening. I hope it does. I hope it's not just talk. I tend to believe Tom because the guy is a no-nonsense kind of guy. He's pretty direct and forward. But anyway, take a look at the clip.
So, the president signed an executive order just this week threatening to defund sanctuary cities for their policies. Why not just arrest the leaders who are harboring and shielding illegal aliens, actually terrorists, from deportation?
Wait to see what's coming.
Excuse me. He says he asks, why not just arrest these people? And he says, his reply, wait till you see what's coming. I'm here for it. Again, these people, they're breaking the law. They should be held accountable for their actions. Tom Homan, when he says that, makes me tend to believe that there's going to start being consequences for these people breaking the law. And I'm going to call it right now. Once this starts happening, people are going to say, oh, fascism, tyranny, blah, 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 blah. The United States still has laws. If you're breaking those laws, there's consequences. Anyway, so we got that. Now we've got, let's go ahead and we'll get into this Sri Thanadar. I don't, if that's how you say his name, I honestly don't care. But because nobody's heard about this guy until now. Unless you're actually in this guy's district, nobody knows who he is. I didn't. Did you? Tell me if you knew who he was. If you're in his district, I'm sure you did. But other than that, nobody knows who this guy was. Not until now. Same thing with a lot of these other Democrats that are pushing nonsense. But anyway, I digress. This guy had 7 articles of impeachment against President Trump. House Democrats fume at rogue Trump impeachment push. Apparently, the way this sounds is nobody actually knew what he was doing. He just came out and said that he was going to do it. Now, the story is that the Democrats that he had as far as co-sponsors didn't even know about it. Apparently, there was a little hallway meeting that he had, just grabbed up some guy and was told him he wanted to do this, and they were like, oh yeah, sure, whatever. That's what I get out of it. And now that the co-sponsors on the impeachment have all just they just said, no, I'm not doing that. What does that tell you? If they won't even put their name on this, and the Democrats, they'll do anything to push against President Trump, But them taking their name off of this tells me there's more to the story. So we'll take a look at this. It's from The Hill, all right? And we'll read through this real quick, and because this explains it a little bit of what happened with this Sri Thanadar guy. 3 House Democrats asked to be removed from Trump impeachment resolution. Interesting. Now, let me get rid of that. There we go. A trio of House Democrats asked to be removed as co-sponsors of a resolution to impeach President Trump, a sign that many in the party do not want to go down the path of trying to remove the president from office, at least at the current moment. I don't think they would. Look, they're not going to do it right now. There's Al Green, another prime example. I don't think anything came of that. I haven't seen anything, if it did. I think this is just going to get dropped anyway. I don't think that it won't make it to the floor of Congress. It won't happen. He lost his his co-signers, co-sponsors, what have you. He lost them. This isn't going to happen. They don't have, look, it's slim, but Republicans still hold the House and the Senate. It's not gonna go through. They don't have the votes. So putting this up is just grandstanding. It's them putting their names out there. It doesn't make sense for anything else. They know they don't have the votes in order to do it, so why bring it up anyway? It's for grandstanding, for him to get his name out there. The guy, nobody know who the guy was until now. That's what it's for. That's it. Anyway, let's see. Reps. It jumped on me because the video loaded. Okay, Reps. Quihesi, I don't know. Robin Kelly and Jerry Nadler had signed on as co-sponsors of Rep. Sri Thanandar's impeachment resolution, which includes 7 articles of impeachment. But Tuesday afternoon, they went to the House floor and asked for their names to be taken off the legislation. The House clerk granted their request. They said, look, I don't want any part of this. We don't have the votes. You're just grandstanding. I'm not going to be part of it. Understand why? They don't want, it's not going to pass, so why bother with it? This guy's just trying to get his name out there because, again, nobody knew who he was until now. Spokesperson for Kelly and Moom, I don't know how to. I can get rid of that again. Said the lawmakers initially signed on to the letter because they assumed it had been reviewed by leadership. When they learned it was not, they asked for their names to be removed. Congressman Moom removed himself as a co-sponsor from House 353 because he was made aware it was not cleared by Democratic leadership and not fully vetted legally. And he preferred to err on the side of caution, the spokesperson said. Look, again, this was just him getting his name out there. That's it. That's all it was. Congressman removed himself as a sponsor from. Oh wait, I already read that part. The Congresswoman was under the impression that the resolution was drafted and reviewed by both the House Judiciary Committee and leadership when she originally signed on during the vote series on the floor. Kelly's spokesperson echoed. Nadler's office did not respond to several requests for comment. There is now just one co-sponsor on the impeachment resolution, Representative Jan, who signed on to the measure Tuesday. Thanadar, however, is not deterred. In a statement to The Hill on Wednesday, he doubled down on his effort. Of course he did. He can't look weak. He's already got his name on it. He's already said it's going to happen, so he's going to keep on with it. It gets him recognition. It gets his name out there, whatever. I cannot speak for the actions of other members, but I am doing this because Trump has blatantly violated the Constitution, Thanadar said. The decision by Moom, Kelly, and Nadler to distance themselves from the impeachment effort came hours after Rep. Aguilar, the chair of the House Democratic Caucus, said trying to remove Trump from office is not an exercise that we're willing to undertake, pointing to the GOP's total control of Congress. That's what I said. That they don't have the votes. It's not going to go through, so why bother doing it? The grandstand, to get your name out there. Impeachment is, at times, a tool that can be used. This president is no stranger to that. He's been impeached twice, Aguilar told reporters in the Capitol. But we do not have any confidence that the House and Senate Republicans will do their jobs, and so this is not an exercise that we're willing to undertake. Aguilar did not, however, say Trump has not committed impeachable offenses. The House impeached Trump twice during his first term, but he was acquitted by the Senate in both instances. Anyway, let's see what we got here. He started on day one with his meme coin pump and dump scheme. Trump unconstitutionally dismissed charges against Eric Adams for political gain. He unlawfully created Doge. He didn't. I covered that already. He just took an agency that was already there and just renamed it. That's all it was. Blah, 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 blah. Finally, when he ignored the 9-0 Supreme Court ruling to facilitate the return of those departed without due process, he completely ignored our system of checks and balances. He added, that's when I said enough was enough. These people got due process. I don't care what. Look, the left is running with this narrative that these people did not get due process when they did. Kilmar Abrega Garcia had due process. He went before two different judges claiming that said he was an MS-13 member. He had his day in court. He got deported. That's it. It's done. Anyway, now, I'd like to show you this because I think this was interesting. Tim Pool completely annihilates this guy. Now, this, I'm going to get myself off of here too, just so you can see the whole screen. There we go. Now, Tim Pool completely annihilates this guy. They went on Piers Morgan, and I'm going to show you this clip of Tim Pool just completely annihilating this guy, talking about the fact that other presidents did horrible things too, and nobody tried to impeach them or go after them for breaking the law, what have you. So take a look at this. Again, this is just Tim Pool's pretty cool. I mean, the guy's very, very smart. He's intelligent. He knows what he's talking about, and he's got the data to back up his talking points. So again, check this out. You tell me what you think. I think Tim Pool annihilated this guy, but you tell me what you think.
He has used that to
So is Obama. This is ridiculous. When Anwar al-Awlaki was assassinated, an extrajudicial assassination, and his 16-year-old son by Obama, the Democrats defended this, and they said he should have had a better father. No one cared. Nobody cared. I know Jen cared. I know he's talked about it. I'm mad about it too. So now when you come out and you say Trump's going to be impeached because he's doing things that are unpopular, I'm personally offended.
It's not unpopular. It's illegal.
Murdered
Illegal
Americans.
and
No one did
unconstitutional.
anything. And you could right now file those impeachment articles. We could get a criminal hearing and a conviction of Barack Obama for the murder of a 16-year-old. The 16-year-old Abdulrahman al-Awlaki was not a combatant. He was at a civilian restaurant in a country we are not at war with. And why won't anyone do anything about it? I'll throw a cherry on top. When Donald Trump in his first term, when he first gets elected, he ordered a commando raid in Yemen, which reportedly killed a 7-year-old American girl as well. We don't have the same evidence on that one. I want that criminally investigated as well. How about you pursue those cases? But you know what? You won't, because when it comes to bloviating nonsense pertaining to the economy or what Trump may or may not be doing, no one ever goes after the war machine. No one ever tries to target the extrajudicial authorities of the executive branch and their unilateral authority to declare war. There's never been a war declared since World War II, and you're not going to do anything about it. No one will.
He's not wrong. Look, he points out the fact that nobody goes after anybody for war crimes. When it comes to the war machine, nobody does anything. Why? My opinion is because it makes these people wealthy. It funnels money into the government, raises taxes, makes us pay more. The war machine it's huge, okay? Tim Pool's not wrong about pointing this out. They don't care if it's something like this. They don't. They even as much as they hate President Trump, they were still a 7-year-old that they didn't bother investigating that. Why? They hate Trump. They think everything he does is bad except for that one thing. Why? Because war good, right? These guys are war hawks. They're known to be that. Anyway, so that I wanted to point that out because he completely destroys this guy. But anyway, we'll go on to Tulsi Gabbard here. Now, from the Post Millennial, Tulsi Gabbard said that they're going to be investigating, looking into the Wuhan lab and the origins of COVID, even though I think the investigation should take place, but everybody knows that it already came from the lab. You know, the gain of function research that was happening there under everybody's favorite, doctor, Mr. Fauci. I got my own opinions about that guy, but we won't get into that. But anyway, from the Post Millennial, let's see. DNI Tulsi Gabbard tells podcaster Megyn Kelly she's working with HHS to uncover COVID-19's origins and gain of function research. Now, you can let me know what you think, but I've kind of gotten mixed feelings about gain of function research just because of the fact that some of the breakthrough that happened through that type of, research does end up helping. But on the other hand, there's a lot of shady stuff that goes on within those labs, mainly like Dr. Fauci's, Beagle experiments. Terrible, terrible stuff. Not a fan of it, although I can see the other side. I can. That's just what I think about it, though. National Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard is working with National Institutes of Health Director Jay Badaraka Ria and Health and Human Resource Health Service Secretary RFK Jr. to investigate the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic. Gabbard discussed the investigation during an appearance on the Megyn Kelly Show on Thursday. She told Kelly that she believes that the U.S. government helped fund dangerous virus-altering experiments, known commonly as gain-of-function research, that could have led to the outbreak. Everybody already knows that that's actually what happened. You can actually say it now on YouTube, where you couldn't before. And everybody harped on President Trump at the time when he was in his first term, saying that he was racist for calling it the China virus, even though that's where it came from. But anyway, in the case of the Wuhan lab, as well as many other biolabs around the world, was actually U.S. funded and leads to this dangerous kind of research that in many examples has resulted in either a pandemic or some other major health crisis, Gabbard said. I like Tulsi. I think she's doing a good job thus far. I've always liked her. I liked her when she destroyed Kamala Lala on stage when they had that debate, when she was actually running for the Democratic presidential ticket. I like Tulsi. I've always liked her. I didn't like her stance on the Second Amendment and her gun stance, but she has changed that since then. Let's see. In order to prevent another COVID-like pandemic or other major health incidents that could affect us in the world, we have to end this gain-of-function research, she continued. Gain-of-function research involves modifying pathogens to be more contagious and deadly for the supposed purpose of studying them. Gabbard has argued the high-risk experiments aren't worth the potential world-altering danger and likely contributed to the global pandemic. We already know that it did. It's not likely. Everybody knows at this point that that's what happened. There might be some people out there that still try to deny it, but everybody knows that it came from that lab. Everybody knows that the gain-of-function research that was happening. Everybody knows that Dr. Fauci lied under oath, that nothing's going to happen to that guy either. I hope it does. But anyway, Gabbard's comments came after the Trump administration relaunched the federal COVID-19 information website, covid.gov, moving the focus away from vaccines to instead making the case that the virus originated in a Chinese laboratory. The site outlines evidence pointing to the lab leak from the Wuhan Institute of Virology and criticizes former NIH official Anthony Fauci for allegedly covering up key information. Everybody knows he did. Everybody knows he lied under oath. But they twist it and they say the way he actually worded it, he wasn't actually lying. But we all know he was. A senior administration official told Fox News on the day that revamped site went live, the administration prioritizes transparency over all else. The American people deserve to know the truth about the COVID pandemic, and we will always find ways to reach communities with that message. Let me ask you guys a question. How many of you have seen this kind of transparency within an administration before? I haven't seen it in my lifetime. They're televising, meetings. There's press conferences every day. I have not seen this kind of transparency in an administration in my life. That's just me speaking from personal experience. You let me know if you think differently. I think that this administration is completely transparent for the most part. There's stuff that they keep under the lid, but I think for the most part, they're letting people know what's going on. I mean, just Pam Bondi's on Fox News like every day. Don't like her. Think she should do more action and less talking, but she is. There's people on news outlets. There's press conferences. Tom Homan's talking to people. It's the most transparency I've seen in an administration ever. But anyway, I'm rambling. It also states that the Wuhan houses China's top SARS research facility, which has had a history of conducting gain of research function research biosafety levels. The site claims researchers at the Wuhan Institute of Virology were ill with COVID-like symptoms in the fall of 19, before the virus was linked to the city wet market. By nearly all measures of science, if there was evidence of a natural origin, it would have already surfaced, but it hasn't. Let's see. Federal agencies have not been in full agreement on the virus's origin. In 23, the FBI said it supported the lab leak theory with moderate confidence, while the Department of Energy said it favored the explanation with low confidence. Meanwhile, the National Intelligence Council leaned toward a natural origin for the virus under the Biden administration, of course. Gabbard had rejected that theory. I do too. Everybody knows, like I said, everybody knows at this point that it came from the lab. It's not a secret. And I think that it should be looked into, even though everybody knows at this point, and you can actually say it on YouTube and what have you, that it actually came from the Wuhan Institute of Virology. I'm having real troubles with that word for some reason today. Anyway, I'm glad it's being investigated. You know, I think once the investigation is concluded, they're going to come out and say, yeah, it actually came from the lab. It was a lab leak. I think Dr. Fauci should be held accountable. He won't be, but I think he should. Anyway, Trump went to the University of Alabama, to give a commencement speech to the graduation class. I liked it. It was pretty good. Y'all can let me know what you thought. But I wanted to show this and contrast it with President Biden when he gave his last commencement speech. And you can tell me what you think the difference is. I'm going to tell you what I think. But here, we'll listen to President Trump first.
As you graduate, it's natural to reflect on 4 years of happy memories, and you've really had happy memories here. You've done a lot of winning. Winning is a good thing to do. But today I'm also asking you to look forward to really something very, very bright and more promising. And it's going to be an even more promising tomorrow, I promise you that. You're the first graduating class of the golden age of America. We're in the golden age. You watch. It's the golden age.
Golden age of America. Now, just pretty uplifting, pretty positive, positive message, that kind of thing. Now, compare that to President Biden's last commencement speech that he gave, I forget the university. It was HBU, and tell me what you think the difference is. I'll tell you what I think the difference is afterwards. Take a look.
To stand up against the poison of white supremacy, as I did my inaugural address, to single out as the most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy.
You see the difference yet?
And I'm not saying this because I'm at a black HBCU.
Yes, he is.
I say it wherever I go.
He is exactly saying it just because he is at a HBU. That's exactly why he said it. Don't let the guy fool you. Like I said. So tell me, what do you think the difference is in those two speeches? I'll tell you what I think. I think that President Trump has a positive message, and President Biden had a negative one. You got to overcome racism. You got to overcome, being put down by the man and the white man and blah blah blah. President Trump has a positive message. President Biden had a negative one. That's the difference. Hope for America. versus overcoming all this adversity, and it's harder for black people because of this and yada yada yada. Hope versus not hope. That's what I think the difference is. You can let me know. That's all I've got for this morning. I appreciate you all hanging out with me today. Kind of a little grab bag, like I said. But I appreciate you being here. If you like what you saw, hey, hit that follow button. Appreciate you being here again. You can follow me on X at The Political Ray. You can follow me on True Social at Political Ray. You can go to YouTube if you want to, but I don't know why. I'm pretty sure I'm shadow banned on there. But anyway, you can go there if you want to. I'm on there as well. I do upload these to there. Although I am live here on Rumble every morning, Monday through Friday, 7:30 Eastern. So check it out. Share the show with everybody you know. Again, I appreciate everybody being here. Oh, hope everybody has a great day. God bless and take care of each other. I need some more coffee.